What's poppin', everybody? This is EZ Drell coming at you with the first chapter of my new book, Dragon Fang. It's actually not a new book, it's the updated edition with all new professional editing, new cover, and it's going to be great. So let's get into it. First chapter, Dragon Fang by EZ Drell. It's dedicated to me and my ninjas, my dragon ninjas. Chapter 1, The Portal. Riku and Unamichi stood on a stone cliff overlooking the evergreen forest valley at night. The valley was deep and vast, yet the trees stood tall, and some even reached the cliff's peak or higher at their apexes. The trees creaked and moaned in the swift spring air. The pair were still, yet their black scarves danced in the wind. Their swords and their sayas worn on each of their backs added a spike to their shadows stretching behind them. The ninjas were dressed in black robes and had their eyes locked on the floating clouds ahead. They each grabbed the hilt of their ninjato, waiting for the mark. Too soon and they would be caught off balance. Too late and they would miss the mark completely. They gazed at the clouds again, a full minute left. Grandmaster Tay told me of Minato's betrayal, Unamichi whispered to his companion. And then there's the matter of what will happen to the ninja corps. Minato's betrayal was an unforeseeable incident, Riku responded. He did not deserve such treatment. I find it difficult to accept that Minato, one of the temple's most veteran ninjas, would attempt to assassinate Grandmaster Tay. It just doesn't add up. Perhaps it was his aim to become a close ally with Grandmaster Tay in order to divert suspicion, reasoned Unamichi. How do we know Minato really did attempt to kill him? Riku whispered. Grandmaster Tay was the only witness. Perhaps we shouldn't assume the man who sentenced Minato to die could give an accurate account. Only time will tell, Unamichi said. But for now we must focus. Riku took a low stance, gripping firmer on the sword hilt. Our objective tonight is critical, Riku said. If any more come through, our home will be in deep trouble. The full moon was now partially visible between the separating clouds as the wind picked up. Unamichi took his stance, a mirror image of Riku's. The ninja's shadows shrank in stature, but grew distinct. The bright moon became increasingly more pronounced. Its full gleam sparkled, lighting up the forest. The last clouds left the moon's silhouette. Riku and Unamichi drew their swords and lunged forward. A pair of ninjas clothed in white appeared, and both found themselves with ninjato blades shoved in their belly. Each gave a quick last gasp. Riku and Unamichi pulled their swords out of the bloodied ninjas, and in one fluid synchronized motion, flicked off the blood and placed their swords in their sayas on their backs. The white-clothed ninjas fell to their knees and slumped over lifeless. Riku pulled 2 matches from his pack and handed one to Unamichi. They struck their matches on the hilt of their swords, and with outstretched arms, they dropped the matches on the bodies. They watched the flames in anticipation. The fires of Riku's victims burst to life with an orange glow. Unamichi's victim did the same, but the flames were blue and purple. Unamichi gasped. What is the meaning of this? The ninjas drew their swords, and Riku chopped Unamichi's right arm off. Unamichi hollered in pain. To his surprise, a new arm grew back in its place, in the way a gecko regrows its tail. The new arm was naked, pale, dripping wet, and shivering violently. Riku did not pause to ask questions, and he chopped the arm off again. Again, it grew back. The severed arms transformed into green cobras. They coiled around Unamichi's feet. Unamichi picked up his sword and dove off the cliff into the trees below. Riku gazed below after Unamichi. Page break. The blue flame was an omen, Grandmaster Tay explained to Riku later in the Grandmaster's personal quarters of the temple. The dojo was a vast room with a ceiling that reached for the heavens. Several skylights allowed the sunlight to stream through to the woven tatami flooring far below. The high ceiling was supported by tall jade columns that grew out of the floor. Grandmaster Tay's personal quarters were a miniature version of the vast domain, its own skylight illuminating the room, with its knee-high dark oak table where Grandmaster Tay regularly enjoyed his tea. Demons appear on the peak of the height of every full moon. They come from the demon realm, Onigawa. Riku stirred as he knelt and listened to Grandmaster Tay. Riku's Grandmaster was in his 70s, but moved like a man in his prime. Most notably, he wore a black eye patch over his eye. It was covering a new wound he earned from Minato. Minato. He wore white robes and plenty of extra material to allow for easy movement. Along the hem was black and golden embroidery. He was not a tall man, but his stoic presence was felt whenever he walked in the room. He sat cross-legged opposite the oak table from Riku. Riku had heard of the demon realm before, and had slain several beings coming through it already, an occurrence shrouded in mystery. Grandmaster Tay continued, Onigawa is said to be where lost souls go, whose bodies were never put to rest properly. These souls often feel neglected and jealous of the living. They become angry, and if they are allowed into the human realm, they take the form of fierce warriors, bearing terrible curses of immeasurable power. A serving girl slid open the fusuma and stepped into the room. She carried a wooden tray with 2 teacups. Riku, his back to the door, looked over his shoulder at her. She wore plain white servant's robes, common to the servants at Koga Temple. She nervously bounced her eyes between the 2 men, before gingerly placing the hot cups of tea between them on the oak table. She bowed as she exited the room, as quickly and meekly as she entered. Riku reached and took a sip of the tea, briefly wincing as it burned his lips. Grandmaster Tay showed no such pain after he took a sip, placing his teacup back on the table. Does this mean the demon cursed Unamichi-san? Riku asked. You said to kill anyone that is met with a blue flame. Grandmaster Tay mulled over another sip of tea. The spike of the heated water enriched the tea leaves of spring. It smelled of fresh azalea flowers. Grandmaster Tay shut his eyes and breathed in the scents through his nose. There was nothing to him like enjoying a good cup of tea he had sampled many times before. It reminded him of many years ago when he was young, and his mother would force him and his little sister to sit at the table and learn the tea ceremony. He hated it as a child. As an adult, it became a lasting comfort. Grandmaster Tay looked to his right at the sword mounted on a wooden rack. It was a traditional katana with a golden blade. There was an engravement on the blade next to the guard in a strange foreign language. He had learned it read Midas. Yes, Unamichi-san is cursed, he said in his curt, stern manner. It would be better to keep that information a secret. Tell everyone a demon has slain him, and the matter has been taken care of. Knowledge of a man cursed by a demon running loose will do nothing but spread worry and discord. Better they all believe him dead. Grandmaster Tay took another sip of the tea. Don't even mention Unamichi, unless someone asks. Riku broke his eye contact and thought it over for a moment. Riku had known Unamichi since they joined the temple many years ago. It would be a challenge to simply forget about him. And even worse, know he was out there and what he had done to him. It was his duty to kill Unamichi in that moment, but that didn't stop him from feeling upset about it. Forget about him, Riku, Grandmaster Tay said, sensing ambivalence. Remember your training and take your mind off it. Now, go get some rest. We'll talk more later. The old man returned to his tea. Thank you, Grandmaster. Riku bowed low, his face to the floor. He stood up and left the personal quarters. Grandmaster Tay had an uneasy feeling in his stomach. This would indeed be a problem for the well-being of those residing in Koga Temple. Okay, and then the next chapter is called Dancing in the Moonlight, Chapter 2. Thank you for listening. Hope you all have a great evening, day, etc. Take care.